Hey GDQ, my handle is Mitriz, and this is my submission for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, the Any percent category. I'm going to be talking over a run I actually just completed just about an hour ago. It's my personal best in this category, but I was very silent on it, so I figured I'd talk over it, make it a little more interesting, something like maybe what I do, commentating it as it goes. So this run is the Any percent category, also known as the Shura ending unrestricted category, or some people just call it the air swim category, and we'll see why it's called that when we get to it. So I'll go ahead and let the video start playing, so that can sort of be going on as I'm talking about it. Occasionally my mic in here is going to sort of cut in and make little noises. So the timer would actually start when this loading screen fades, which would be in about 3, 2, 1, start. Alright, so off on the run. First thing to notice, the movement in this game is generally a lot faster than other Souls-like games, other FromSoft games, but in the beginning here, we're actually not allowed to sprint at all, so the fastest movement is jumping. Later on, when we get our sword, we're going to be sprinting all over the place, we're going to be grappling to different places, and it gets pretty fast. Another thing to notice is these guys are shooting at me. There's actually a very, very low chance that they could hit me, and I'd have to just start over, but it's right at the beginning of the game, so not too big. As I come in here, I'm going to talk to Kuro, and we can see there he kind of turned all the way away from me, and so it takes a while for his dialogue to start up. That's just totally random. Nothing I can do about that. I try to mash through the text at a specific rhythm, because if you actually go too fast, it actually won't register all of your presses and you'll actually get through the text slower. Now that we finally have the sword, off to sprinting. This is going to be the main movement mechanic we do throughout the entire run. Is going to be this just sprinting past enemies. Here I'm going to grab some ash. It's going to be very, very important for a later on boss. But for the most part, this area is just some good movement as we come up to the first boss. The story of this game, we're not really going to get into in this run. Kind of just skips over all of it, especially because we do it so out of order. But basically, Kuro, the little boy, is going to get kidnapped, and we try to go save him. That's kind of the whole story. There's a lot of other political stuff going on, but that's the only thing that Sekiro cares about, saving his master. So here we come to our first boss fight. He's a pretty tough boss fight, and I lost. That's actually an intentional death, because even if you beat him, it doesn't matter. The game will just sort of force you to lose anyway in the cutscene afterwards, so faster to just let him kill us. Now we get our grapple, because we have now our arm's been cut off, it's replaced with a prosthetic, and that prosthetic allows us to do these grapples here. So this is a good way to be able to get around quickly and to be able to sort of jump up to higher areas that would normally be out of reach. I'm going to be using this a lot throughout the run. Here I'm going to grab a little more ash, again for that boss later. We're coming up on the first big skip of the game. It's called Ogre Skip. It's probably the hardest skip in the game, but you can also try it as many times as you like, and it only loses you like 3 or 5 seconds for every time you miss it. Does save about 30 seconds compared to fighting the ogre, so it is worth going for, even though it's really, really difficult to get consistently. Here, because I already know the run, I'm going to get it first try. Basically just run off the edge, jump at just the right time. It seems to be about frame perfect, and you have just enough height to make it over there and around this way, instead of having to fight the ogre. In a marathon run, there's actually some gachi sugar there that I would go and grab for a little bit of safety later on. Since this was a PB run, I'm not going to grab it here, but in the marathon I would grab it for a section later in the run. I would grab some sugar right there for a backup. So here, this run is very, very skip heavy. We're going to go straight into the next skip. This one is probably not great for a marathon to do. Saves about 5 seconds for losing about 30 seconds or more. It is pretty consistent though. It's called canyon skip. So basically we just line ourselves up here, and if we do it just right, we can just barely make it across that gap. It's really, really tight, but it is consistent with the setup that I've found. And so now, right after, we're going to come up to 2 more skips within the next 2 minutes. So I'll just go straight into explaining those as I grab some gachi sugar here for later. So first is this horse skip. So basically, with this boss, if we run around and we jump onto a tower in the distance, we can actually just barely make it outside of his arena and get him to fall off the edge instead of having to fight him. So here's the tower we're going to climb up. So I jump up here, all the way up to the top of it, get a specific lineup, and I can jump and just barely grab onto that ledge, very similar to the ogre skip. And now that I'm outside of his arena, I can just come over here, and he actually runs off the edge all by himself. In the marathon, I would look back and I would see him falling so that the crowd could see him, but he does just run off on his own. So for speed here, I'm just going to run on by knowing that he falls off. Right up into this next skip. This is called bull skip. This was actually one of the first skips that was found for the run. And basically we can just barely jump over around this wall here to get up on top of the castle, or this little building, and skip all the way around. Down here is where the bull is, and we can just completely go around the area where you would fight him, instead of having to fight him. So here, now as we're resting, I'm going to enhance my attack power. Every boss you kill actually gives you an attack power increase, very different than other Souls-like games. The only increases that you get to your power come from killing bosses or from a skill tree. Now, getting the skills in the skill tree is actually very, very slow, so we don't even get any skills in this run. The only power increase we're going to have is any of the bosses that we actually kill. So we're coming up right here to a mini-boss fight. First thing we're actually going to fight, except I don't really fight it. I still just go into this corner, get him to go into the corner, and then by slashing like this, he doesn't actually even block it, and I can just hit him to death. So the reason this happens is because you can see I'm slashing sideways to him. I'm not actually slashing directly at him. I'm not locked on. And enemies in this game don't know to block if you're not actually looking at them. So they're programmed only to block if you're looking at them. So by looking away from him and slashing and still having the sword hit him, I can hit him without him ever trying to block. It's not actually much faster or any faster than killing him normally, but it is pretty safe, pretty consistent, and pretty easy to do. And we'll see that on some of the other bosses as well. It's a very common thing in this run, is to try to make it so that we're hitting bosses into a corner and then unlocking from them so that we can get them. There's the last set of ash we'll need for later. And we are right here into another mini-boss fight. This one is going to look almost identical to the previous fight with Lone Shadow. The one difference is this mini-boss actually does have a super armor move, where she can do it even when she's getting hit. And so I'm going to have to watch out for that and deflect it when she does it. So first, it's about getting her into the corner. So now that she's in the corner, I can deflect her, unlock, start hitting to the side of her, and same thing. She's locked in a corner, and here she's going to do her grab move that's got the super armor. I have to deflect it, and then I can go back to hitting sideways. So that's going to be most of the boss fights we do in this. We actually only have 2 more bosses that we're going to fight at the end of the run. The rest of it, we're just going to kind of run around and not really fight enemies, but go around them. So here is definitely a long section of just movement. This would either be a good time for some donations, or I'm going to talk about here some of the safety that I'm going to incorporate into this run. So in this run, it is actually fairly safe. There are definitely some places where you can lose a lot of time, but the majority of it that makes it possibly unsafe is that the game automatically saves whenever you use an item. So because of this, if I use an item and then I don't succeed, I fail, I have to try again, I won't have that item for the next attempt. This can be very scary, and that is why I grab a couple of extra items just in case, and I would have a backup save for a couple of specific spots where it can get a little dicey. Here I'm actually into another mini-boss, but it's a complete joke. I don't even really count it as a mini-boss. There was a slight skip I did to get to it, jumping on the tree, but that is a very, very basic one, very easy to do. Okay, so coming up on the only part of the run where it could legitimately die, and I would need a backup save for this one part, because the next boss that I'm going to get to is one where I have to have enough resources. That's those ashes I've been picking up, as well as some snap seeds that I grabbed, in order to be able to do the kill on it. If I did not succeed in the kill, I would have to go to a backup save where I would have those materials to try again. I could make it much, much safer by actually grabbing way more of those materials, and it would be pretty much impossible to fail. But it's also so easy. I haven't failed it pretty much at all in the last couple hundred attempts of it. So for that reason, I probably wouldn't grab the extra stuff, but I could for that increased safety. So here I'm finally going to equip my items, including that fistfuls of ash and the snap seeds. And you'll see what I do here is I run all the way around the monk. That makes it so that when it comes in, I'm actually behind the monk and it doesn't even notice me, even as I'm throwing all this stuff at it. And every time I hit it with something, it goes a little further back, just far enough back that I can get this death blow from above. So I back it up just close enough that I can get that death blow from above. Here I actually quit out to save just a little bit of in-game time. This is not something I would do for a marathon. It actually loses real time, but saves about a second or two of in-game time of the door opening. So, yeah. So now we're going to get to the reason that I called this category Air Swim at the start. We're going to actually start doing the biggest glitch that sort of opened up this category, which is the Air Swim. So by killing that boss, by killing the corrupted monk, we get the ability to swim. But if you swim in a place that's out of bounds, that doesn't have a boundary around it, your character can just start swimming and keep swimming anywhere, and you can go anywhere with it. That's the Air Swim. So first thing to do is to get out of bounds, which I can actually do right here, not too difficult. I just jump here, and the wall actually isn't solid all the way, and so then I can jump over here into this pool of water and start swimming. Since there's no boundaries to keep me in, and I'm in the swimming state, it lets me just keep swimming, and I can swim through the air. A lot of things don't get loaded this way, and so it looks really, really weird. You'll notice as I'm swimming that I try to swim in very specific places, and whenever I do this, like right here, whenever I surface, it's going to change what things are loaded in the environment. This is actually necessary to do, because if you sort of go too far away without loading things from an area, the game will actually just kill you. It'll totally kill you, it'll get confused, it'll say, wait, how are you all the way over here? You haven't even loaded the stuff in the middle yet. This quit out is actually for the exact same reason, to make sure that it knows we're in this area now, you need to load the stuff from this area. So here now we've loaded into Senpo Temple. Again, it looks very, very weird because it's trying to figure out what stuff to load. And here I'm going to intentionally get the aggro of some enemies here. So starting with that enemy, and I'm going to try to chain it all the way as I'm going along. Try to keep aggro on at least one person the whole way through. The reason for this is because in the Dark Souls games, whenever you would quit out, it would keep you in the same position and it would de-aggro all the enemies. And FromSoft didn't like that. It was too abusable. You could run past a bunch of enemies, quit out, and then the enemies would just stop following you, and you wouldn't have to deal with them. So in Sekiro, instead, what they did is when you quit out, it goes back to where you were before you aggroed all the enemies. This actually helps us right here, because I can go grab that idol, and then when I quit out, it'll put me back to where I was when I first aggroed the enemies, which is back to when I'm air swimming. So I can actually grab that idol, quit out, and then go back to air swimming to the next place I want to be. So I kind of get a 2-for-1. I don't have to air swim to one place, then air swim again to another place. I can just air swim, quit out, and then still be air swimming. So here we're getting to probably, in my opinion, the scariest part of the run, which is skipping the ape. So the problem with this one is that we're going to be entirely out of bounds. We're going to come out of the air swimming state, and we're basically going to be walking on these little tiny ledges the whole way around. Any small mistake and we can fall off. So here's a scary part right here. I knew I was going to get it because it's a replay, but now you can see I'm walking in very specific paths, jumping in very specific places, and sort of hugging the walls so that I'm not going to fall off. Here's a scary jump over a gap. Just made it. Another scary jump over a gap. Made that one as well. They're actually not too difficult, not too inconsistent, but very scary, because one small mistake and you fall, not just to an instant death. It takes about a minute of falling before the game actually kills you, and then I would have to air swim again to get there. Again, it's very consistent, actually. It's not like it's that hard to do, but very scary, because it loses a lot of time if you miss it, 2 to 3 minutes. Here I'm going to go out of bounds again, jumping over this invisible wall here, and fall down into the next boss fight, which is the folding screen monkeys. They actually put this boss fight directly below Senpo Temple, so by getting out of bounds and falling down, I can actually fall directly into the boss fight. I just have to grapple at the right time. That one's a little scary. That's actually why I grabbed the extra gachi sugar, is in case I miss that one, then I'll have some backup gachi sugar to try it again. So the reason I need the gachi sugar, it makes me a lot harder to see, so I can sneak up on all these monkeys and kill them. If they do see you, they run away, and you're supposed to do some puzzles. It's supposed to be a big puzzle boss, but as long as you've got the gachi sugar, you can pretty much just sneak up on all of them and take them out, no problem, just like that. Alright, so now what's left in the run is only 2 more bosses, Genichiro and Emma/Ishin. Genichiro is sort of a mid-game boss. He's probably, for most casual players, the first real difficult boss. But for us, for speedrunners, he's really easy. Emma/Ishin, on the other hand, is actually pretty difficult because we have to fight them totally normally. There's no special strategies, we just have to play well, and we are really underleveled for this point in the game. We've skipped straight here, gotten no skills, gotten barely any attack power, and we have no health, just the base amount that we started with from the very beginning of the game. So any little mistake here will actually cause our death. So here you can see I'm going to swim up to Genichiro again. Same exact way I did before, jumping out of bounds and swimming up. This actually only saves about 3 to 4 seconds, but it is pretty safe, it is pretty consistent. If it ends up not working, I could easily do it the other way and not lose very much time. So you'll see here, just like the previous mini-bosses, I'm going to try to get Genichiro into a corner. And now, since I'm swinging away from him, he's not going to block, and I can just sort of lock him in the corner. There is one move he could do that does have sort of that super armor. It's actually that one he tried to do right there, where he can back away and then start shooting some arrows at you. It is pretty unlucky to get it, and most of the time, even if he tries to do it, you'll kind of hit him as he's jumping, like I did there. So here we just lock him in the corner, and that's going to take out everything for his phase 1. Phase 2, we fight him a little more normally. Starts with a really cool strat. So I want to pop this sugar, but he's going to immediately charge at me, and if you just turn around, for some reason he misses. No idea why, the sword pretty much goes right through you, but he misses if you just turn around. You'll see there he opened with a lightning attack on me. That's actually really good. I can deflect it back at him and get a lot of posture damage. But then after that, I make a really big mistake. I attacked too many times and die for it. Luckily, this game has a resurrection mechanic, so you're allowed to, whenever you die one time, you can come back and keep fighting. So that does make this game, while it is really, really tough, if you play it casually, you know it's a very, very tough game, it does make it a little more forgiving of those little mistakes. Because if you make one big mistake and actually die, you get to come back once. So that definitely saved me there. It was a very, very bad fight. I almost never die on Genichiro. Luckily, because of the resurrection mechanic, I don't have to be too worried about it. If I do die on him, I can come right back. It's not a big deal. So now all we've got left is Emma Ishin, the last boss fight of the game. Kind of 2 bosses in one. But if you do die on Ishin, you do have to fight Emma first and then Ishin. It's sort of a combined boss fight. So first I'm going to go finish up the story that we totally and completely skipped over, grab the Mortal Blade, yada yada, and then we'll be heading back to the final fight. I have to make sure to equip it here, otherwise I will not be able to interrupt one of his attacks, and if I can't interrupt that attack, it's pretty much just a one-shot. So that Mortal Blade is going to be very, very important for interrupting his attack. One other thing to notice is throughout the run I've been grabbing Sen. I've been grabbing the money, the currency of the game. That's just to buy spirit emblems, which power your special attacks like the Mortal Draw that I just picked up. So because I have that money, I can use the Mortal Draw and use it to interrupt his attacks. So one last time we're going to do the air swim up to Ishin. He's actually in the exact same spot Genichiro was. It's just now that we've progressed the story forward, it's now Ishin's up at the top of the castle rather than Genichiro. So as we swim up there, when we do get up there, we get a choice of our ending, which ending we want to go for. The Shura ending is the one that I'm going to pick because it's much faster. We pretty much go straight into the final boss fight. If you pick the other ending, Immortal Severance, you get a few more boss fights that you have to do before you get to the end of the game. So it's totally a different ending. So here's Emma. She likes to, sometimes she'll just back away from you and sit back for a while, and that can lose you a lot of time and be very annoying. Or, if you're lucky, she'll just keep attacking you. Now this is pretty much just fighting her normally. There's nothing that I'm doing here that's especially cheesy. Just fighting her as well as I can. Hitting her, deflecting when she tries to attack, that back and forth rhythmic gameplay that's known for in Sekiro. So now we're on to the last boss fight, Ishin. He is the scariest one for me. Definitely using a res here can happen. And again, we're just fighting him totally normally. Attacking, deflecting. Very easy to be off a little bit on the timing. Because we have so little health and posture, if we even just block an attack instead of deflecting, it will kill us. It will actually run us out of posture. So it has to be perfect on every single deflect here, is what makes this fight so hard in speedrunning. And you see there, unfortunately, I keep attacking one too many times when he's doing a super arm remove, and it gets me punished. Luckily that res comes in and makes it so even if I make a big mistake like that, it's not too bad. Alright, just dodging his last attacks and getting that in. And that's going to be the end of the game there. Ooh, got a PB. I'll let myself take it away with the last commentary. Good one.
Pretty sure this will be a gold Emma Ishin. There it is. Ooh, a minute 29 off. 22:35. That's pretty good. Alright, so there it is. There's my run. As you can see, it's a scary looking run. It looks like it's very scary. There's a lot of skips jam-packed into this short little run. But it is actually fairly consistent. I'm able to run this category no reset fairly easily. It is totally possible, though, on some of them for me to lose 2 minutes or 3 minutes to a really, really bad mistake. But with a backup save or two, just in case, there's pretty much no way the run can die. I do think it is a very flashy run, a very good introductory run. I see a lot of people, it's their first time speedrunning, come into the community and say, hey, you know, what should I run? You know, I want to run Sekiro. It's such a cool game. You know, I'm sure you guys looking through the submissions have a ton of Sekiro submissions. And I think the any percent category is a really nice one. It's pretty short, but it's got a lot of really, really cool skips in it that are surprisingly consistent. So it's one of those runs that perhaps looks a lot harder than it is, and I think that makes it a really, really cool run for beginners, both to watching speedrunning and to trying out speedrunning themselves. There are also some slightly easier categories of this, one without the air swim called the no air swim category, or the glitchless category also. I run the no air swim category as well, which I'll also be submitting. The glitchless I don't personally run, but I think any of these Shura endings, they're nice and short and sweet and a very good introduction to Sekiro. So yeah, that's my run. It's currently ranked number 4 on the leaderboard. It's about 37 seconds off of first place. And I just got it today, and hopefully by GDQ I can get this time even lower. But yeah, there it is. Thank you for watching my run. Thank you for considering it. This would be for the GDQx, because unfortunately, as a teacher, my school schedule would not allow me to make the AGDQ. It is during a school week, and it would be very, very difficult. It's right around the time grades are due. Very tough for me to do that, but the GDQx on that weekend, I would love to make it down. I would love to be able to show off Sekiro for the first time at a GDQ at that event. And yeah, thank you so much for considering me.